and welcome back to the Career Shelf. You're joining me at the tail end of a beautiful day in Brussels. It is still quite bright outside. We kind of like get sunset this time of year around 10 o'clock in the evening, and then by solstice we're kind of like, we've still got light in the sky around 11. So it is a beautiful time of year. It's my favorite time of year, and I thought I would film right now the favorites for May. Now you're gonna have to bear with me. This is the second time I'm actually filming this video. So because it was a mess yesterday and then it wouldn't upload, and I just thought, okay, Spirit is telling me we're gonna have to do this perhaps another time. So I'm trying this again for the second attempt. So you just have to bear with me because I might be a bit muddled as I describe things because it's the second time I'm doing it, but hopefully it makes sense to you. And welcome to everybody who is new to the channel, and welcome back to new subscribers. You are joining me over here in Brussels, and I am the Curated Shelf. So without further ado, let me go into first and foremost the deck that I use for the month of May. My deep dive deck, which I have already done the review for, so you can already find that on my channel. I think it's already the last video. And that is Tarot of the Hidden Realm. Now, this is illustrated by Julia Jeffrey, artwork by Julia Jeffrey, and a guidebook written by Barbara Moore. It is a Llewellyn deck and is retailing around the €25 mark. I think something like that. I bought this last year for my birthday or Christmas, I can't remember. And I just basically knew that it was going to be something I was going to use sometime in the spring or late summer. It's that kind of, it's got that foresty feel to it. And so I was kind of like saving it. And then like at the end of April, I was like, I am ready to work with this deck. I really want to work with it. So these are the backs. Absolutely stunning. It is, of course, standard Llewellyn cardstock. I've edged mine. It doesn't come like this, but I've edged it in this kind of like mauve, silvery kind of like color, which probably doesn't come off too well on the camera. But anyway, this was a deck which I have to say that when I took it out of its box, it was kind of like, it was like, do not be prissy with me. Do not be like, it was kind of like a deck that kind of like jumped out and said, I'm ready to be used and to be worked with. And I started riffle shuffling it straight away, which I have never really done before, but I was like, this is a deck that wants to work with me. So there you go. So I felt really like connected to it. Of course, I'd cleansed it and everything, but still it had a voice. It had a very distinct voice. So these are the images, and this deck is known to be a very facey deck. So it is the RWS system, the traditional RWS system, but it is now taken to a very abstract level of emotions, facial features, settings, body postures, just, you know, emotions on the faces, the tools or the items that there might be nearby, symbols. You know, here we have a new child. It's very much a deck which relies upon a few key elements coming together, elements as in terms of symbols and just kind of like the look or even the direction that they're facing in. And then the rest is really just kind of like, you know, looking at RWS from an abstract level. I absolutely love it. I got a lot from this deck. I think that this deck, just right off the bat, I have to say, I don't think it's a deck for newcomers, to be very honest. I think that this is a deck which I would actually suggest that one still works with the RWS original symbols before they work with a deck like this, because then it kind of like makes sense a lot more in many ways. But it is an absolutely gorgeous and beautiful deck, and I'm just amazed at how Julia Jeffrey has been able to pick up and able to portray so much of the key essence of the keys, but just through such simplicity. I don't know how else to say it. Gorgeous world card. I like the fact that it embraces like their fays, actually, I was gonna say the humanist, embraces the fae energy in such a naked way. I don't know how else to put it. Very, very just unfettered. It's just very clean. The whole deck is just very clean and very clear, because we just go straight to the person, or the fae, actually I should say, in the deck. I love the fae energy in it. I do like the fact that it's kind of like, it feels like a community, and it feels like I'm being invited to be a part of this. And when I filmed this yesterday, it was quite funny because I said something like, I think the words is that I said that it invited me to be with the fays, but then it brought the fae out in me, which is how I feel about this deck. It brings out the fae in me. And it's a very, very magical deck. The aces are animals. It's just, the artwork is just gorgeous, and I'm really amazed about how the artist was able to capture all of this with such simplicity. So you'll see more of this in my review, which is already on the channel. The guidebook by Barbara Moore is amazing. I really did enjoy it. I did find it very I think she writes in a way which helps the readers to connect to this energy in kind of like trying to understand life. I think that's the best way I can put it, trying to make sense of the journey. It is, the guidebook is called Journey into the Hidden Realm, so it makes sense of the journey that we're in. And so yeah, it's a lovely package. And if you're somebody that's already comfortable with the RWS symbols and you're like, oh, I can do this, I definitely recommend this deck. So it's a deck that has quite a lot of depth of meaning, but not too much in terms of imagery, in terms of complexity. So it's a depth of meaning with a lot of simplicity, and rich, very, very rich in what it's trying to show. So I would definitely recommend giving this deck a try. So going on from there, I thought I would look at kind of like the decks that I use. So I did an abundance workshop on the channel just to try out something new, and also because I really, really wanted to like do something on the channel where I was working with decks rather than just showing decks. I don't know how else to put it. Sometimes I find that, yeah, I'm someone that sometimes just wants to read and have fun with the cards, and yeah, and so I use that as like an opportunity to just do that over a few weeks. And we looked at the topic of abundance because the moon was working through the sign of Taurus. Sorry, the sun was going through the sign of Taurus, and so the moon tracking that we were doing, and I used the deck, the Green Witch Tarot. So this is by Anna Mura and artwork by Kiri Ostergaard Lanoud. Another Llewellyn box deck around the €25 mark again. And this is an amazing, it's another RWS clone. But I think this is a great deck if you are a beginner and you don't want the traditional RWS imagery. This deck I've also done a review of because I already worked with this deck last year for a month. I absolutely love it. I'm so glad I have it, and I'm not going to be getting rid of it anytime soon because it's just such a useful deck. These are the backs. I mean, look at that gorgeous back. The only issue I have with this is I wish it was really centered. I mean, it just annoys me because it's a bit high, which I know sounds a bit weird, but that does annoy me. But it is a beautiful back, and these are the images. It's just a lovely RWS deck, so beautiful, soft and gentle. These, by the way, these leaves and these animals, the author talks about them in her guidebook. Anna Mura talks about them in her guidebook. So I love it for that. It's not overwhelming. It's very simple in many ways. Again, like Llewellyn decks are like that. I think that they're very beautiful, and yet they contain a lot in them, but hidden so that you can discover what's going on in the card as you work with the deck. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's not kind of like loads of stuff coming at you in one go, and you're kind of like, I don't know how else to put it, but like the mind can be overwhelmed. This deck, these decks are also great if you're somebody that wants to practice doing spreads, because again, the imagery is just not overwhelming. It's very natural. I think if you're working as a reader or practicing to work with others, this is another great deck because again, it's not alarming. It doesn't have the old classic RWS imagery, which not everybody connects with. So, this kind of deck, I think, is just gorgeous for that. And again, I just really like the fact the flora and the fauna in this deck are also explained in the guidebook. So if you want to know more about this deck, please do check out the review that I've already done. There is something extensive there. And in the meantime, I just thought I would show that this was another deck that I was looking at in the month of May. And to accompany the abundance workshops, I also kind of decided to make better use of my Queen of the Moon Oracle. Now, I use these cards on my altar, but I never really showed them on the channel. So I thought, the abundance workshop was a good opportunity for me to actually work with this deck on the channel. This is a deck by Stacey DeMarco, published by Rockpool, around the €20 mark again, I think. So I don't want to say affordable, because in today's world, especially with the way prices have increased in so many areas of our life, I don't want to keep saying affordable because I really don't know what's affordable for other people. So I'm just going to say it's around the average tarot deck prices that we see right now. These are the backs. I quite like the fact that the backs are quite unfussy and simple. But I have to say that this is the first time I've really worked with a Stacey DeMarco deck, and I loved it. I think she is a great creator. I don't know who the images are by. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I can give you the name of the person who did the images. I'm sorry, I should have looked that up before, but I didn't. You know, also she's given some information on kind of like, you know, the different moons. I mean, she's done a great job with this deck, but I can't find, I'm sorry to say this, but I can't find the name of the illustrator, so I'm sorry about that. Oh, here it is, about the illustrator, 108. So, Kinga Brichci, a Hungarian artist who's living in the US. Okay, so sorry about butchering her name probably, but at least I found the name of the artist. I really love the art in this deck. It is kind of like very much that Photoshop collage deck, but it's been done very well. The cards are great size, oracle size, but fairly manageable. And this goes really, really well when you're doing it as part of a spread, this deck. This deck has that kind of like quality, which some decks do. I think there are some oracle decks which have been done very clever, which have the quality where they can easily blend in a tarot spread or any kind of spread, sorry, that we're doing. So it's almost like they can be part of a wider community of cards in a reading. And I like oracle cards that do that. It makes it really easy as a reader, basically. So I really love this deck. I still use most of these cards for my altar space, to be quite honest with you, but it was also good to pull these out and do some spreads with them and to do some photos with them as well. And yeah, and I did enjoy working with this deck. So if you're looking for a moon deck to start off with, and you want something that, you know, is affordable, perhaps before you do like a splurge, affordable, there goes that word again, but something that's mass market before you do a splurge, or if you know, just to test the waters, I definitely would recommend this deck. And yeah, I think it's a good deck for beginners and those who already work with the moon energy as well. Okay, so that was the Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. So moving on from there, I'm just going to show some of the decks that I used more for my Instagram stuff. So if you want to follow how I'm doing some spreads or layouts, or you know, sometimes I like to kind of like throw some cards together and see what's coming up for myself. It also helps me to see what kind of cards I want to work with when I'm working with others, and if I'm doing reading for others, or if I'm just wanting to bring some energies together, how does it actually come across? And so if you want to check that out, that's actually on my Insta profile. But in the meantime, let me show you some of the decks that I did actually pull out for last month. Now, I used quite a bit last month. First of all, there is a firm favorite deck. Well, it's two, but and it's the Wendy Andrew Goddess Dream Oracle, and its sister is it's the Goddess Love Oracle. These two decks get used basically every month of the year for me. If Wendy Andrew does more, I will seriously buy like the rest, basically, because I use her stuff so much. I mean, it's value for money for me. These are again, you know, available mass market. It's Rockpool. You're looking at around a €15 price point. I think it's slightly even less than some of their other decks. And the paintings are just beautiful. The illustrations are gorgeous. I love this tableau of purples and pinks and oranges and these muted but vibrant but muted colors. I don't know how else to say it. I just love the energy in this deck. I love it's got a slight shamanic feel. It's very foresty. I love foresty stuff. Of course, you can see that from the Tarot of the Hidden Realm already, you know. And then my Green Witch Tarot. I am a foresty person. So, you know, this was a deck that I just really love working with. And the Goddess Dream, the other one, the Goddess Love Oracle, I use more in the winter. I mean, they're very similar. You could even just combine them all and just make one giant deck, to be quite honest with you. I just think they're both very, very beautiful. They go well with, if you're doing anything that's very Wheel of the Year kind of like stuff. You know, again, these oracle cards just blend right into a spread. And I appreciate cards for that, where they work in harmony with others, you know. And I think I said that in the video that I did yesterday, where, you know, it's kind of like an orchestra where we want the instruments to play together. And sometimes it's beautiful also to have a piece where it's just one or two instruments, right? But these are some of the decks which I really feel are more orchestral. So maybe I should do a whole video on orchestral decks. But yeah, I just really love these cards. I love the artwork in them. I'm just amazed by it. And Wendy Andrew is a creator in the UK, as I recall, in southwest England, I think. I can't, yeah. So anyway, I love her. She also has an Instagram profile if you want to follow it. So there you go. Another Oracle deck, which I haven't been making much use of, but then last month it really came out. And really start to kind of like near the end of the month, so it's going to be featured a lot on my Insta this month as well, is the Wisdom of the Trees Oracle. Now this deck is just, it's by Watkins, I have to say, and it's by Jane Southers, sorry I should say, the creator is Jane Smith. So commissioned artwork by Marilee Alwood. That makes a lot of sense. This is the same artist who did the Forest of Enchantment. That makes a lot of sense, because this goes really well with the Forest of Enchantment. Okay, so now that makes sense now. Now, the one thing I don't love about this deck, I'm just going to say straight off the bat, is I don't love the cardstock, which is what put me off the deck, and I don't like the way it's been packaged. I don't think the packaging is that great, so that kind of stuff can put me off a deck. But nevertheless, I started to use it last month. I'm going to be using it this month too. I mean, this is the bit, right, where in the box the cards get stuck. That annoys me. But I'm just going to show you a few cards off the back. I mean, look at the beautiful borders here. The guidebook is great to this deck. Absolutely great. It's just a beautiful tree deck. You can use it with so many of your forest tarots or forest oracles. Obviously other kinds of tarot and oracles too, but you get it. You get the theme, you get how it's done. It's just a gorgeous deck. And yeah, I really like having it in my collection. These are the backs. Isn't that gorgeous? And the guidebook is really interesting as well to this deck. The guidebook gives meanings in terms of, let me just see if I can go through it very quickly with you. Let me just open it to a certain page. Okay, so you've got different sections. You've got like roots and leaf and trunk. But what you'll get here is you'll get kind of like cedar of Lebanon. So here you go. You get a little photo. You get here information on the actual tree itself. And then you get kind of like a right way up meaning and reverse meaning. And then you kind of like get just a little blurb on, like, you know, native to Lebanon, the Eastern Mediterranean coast, and Asia Minor, bears catkin and cones, extremely long lived. So a little kind of like synopsis of the tree as well. And it's about, you know, in the ancient Sumerian world of about 5000 BCE, the cedar was regarded as the world tree and the home of Ea, the god of wisdom. So it's beautiful. It really helps tie it back also to its spiritual roots, let's put it that way. So I really like this deck, and I would definitely recommend it. You know, if you want to add something to your tree, leaf, forest, fae, you get what I mean, collection. If you have the Forest of Enchantment, you'll want to get this deck. That I will say. The only thing is that the oracle cards are quite small, but sometimes it's quite nice, right? Again, they're just great in a reading, and they're great in a spread. Okay, so moving on from there, let me show you a deck also that I picked up already in November last year, and I was kind of like waiting for like spring, and then she was like, okay, I'm ready to play. And so that's the Joie de Vivre. Now, I've already shown this deck. I think I've already mentioned it on the channel because one of the cards from here is one of my favorite major arcana cards. I absolutely love this deck. It is by Paulina Cassidy, US Games publication. So we're looking around the €20 mark, which I think is fairly great. I love this deck. Now, I love the Paulina. It's the first deck that I actually bonded with and I worked with heavily with it when I began tarot reading after the classic RWS. So the Paulina is kind of like a firm, you know, my top 10, because there's a lot of memories with that deck as well. A lot of memories of learning to read with it and then reading with others. And yeah, there's something with the Paulina deck that's very special for me. This deck, though, is saying, well, I can be part of that club too. And actually, it's doing a really good job. These are the backs. Look at those backs. Gorgeous. And this deck is just beautiful. There's no other way to put it. Look at those colours again. Absolutely stunning. Just gorgeous colors. This beautiful fae energy, fairy energy. Come ride with me. Come let me tell you a story. Come let me soothe you. Come let's have fun. No, it's the energy which helps me remember that there is joy in life, as the title of the deck is. There is the joy of life, basically. It is just one of those decks that I absolutely adore. It really brings out the youth in me, the youthfulness kind of thing, and I kind of like embrace it. Basically, I run with it. So I definitely recommend this deck if you're looking for an energy like that. And again, there is more of that, me working with that on my Instagram. Okay. Then the next deck that I'm just going to quickly show here is a deck which is, I think, a little bit of like a deck which I've hardly shown on the channel, and yet I use it a lot. I mean, the box is already falling to pieces. It's my Crystal Visions artwork by Jennifer Galasso. Now this is another US Games deck, very very low in price, in the sense it's 20 euros, 15, 20 euros, something like that. It's quite, I think it's an old deck. Let me see what the copyright is on this one. 2011, so it's getting there. I love it. Now some people have taken their borders off on this deck. I know it's a very well-known deck. I love it. Again, it's purples, pinks, and blues. I'm going back to that whole theme of, it just goes so well with so many other decks, so it makes my readings a lot easier. I think the images are very clear. It's, again, very foresty, so it blends well. And again, I find these decks are very helpful, because if I'm working with someone and they're like, or if I'm kind of like doing a reading and they're like, what does that mean? Or sometimes people are interested, and then it depends. But sometimes I need a deck which is really, really simple. Otherwise, it's going to leave people thinking, that scares me, basically. I don't know how else to put it. But, and I like this deck. So depending on the energies that I'm working with, and person, sorry, I should say, I'm working with, it varies. But I really like this deck. This is just soft, very friendly, very unassuming. And again, just a great one to keep on my shelf. Look at that Queen of Wands. I got her quite a lot last month, actually. The Queen of Wands stalks me. I'm a Sagittarius moon. It must be that. What else can I say? It must be the fire of me. So there you go. It's a gorgeous deck. Okay, and before I forget, let me show you the backs, because the backs of this deck are just, it's worth getting just for the backs alone. Let me show you the backs. Okay, look at that. Okay, so then moving on from there, let me show you, before I forget, I did do some work with the Ceccoli. So I did put her into my mix as well, and she played with everybody. She's a bit of a strange one, I'll be honest. But again, this deck actually does well with other cards, so with other decks. So yeah, again, we're looking at soft. Well, I'm not going to say soft energy. It's a childlike energy, a little bit deviant. Let's put it that way. More of the shadowy, darker side. I don't know how else to put it. But I like it. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a surreal, dreamlike state with this deck. Now, there's one thing, which is there is an oracle, and I think I'm going to get the oracle, because I find that sometimes the images are a bit claustrophobic in a tarot deck. I feel like they're all hemmed in, and I have seen the oracle on quite a few videos, and I think the oracle has a lot more breathing space. I know it's less cards, but it's fine, I think it's going to be worth me getting the oracle, and I think I will use it quite a bit as well, individually and in spreads. So I have enjoyed working with her. She is an interesting deck, and I don't find it's really great lining up with it's pre-existing artwork that's been put to certain images, and I always find those decks are a lot more difficult, and so this one has that. But still, I've enjoyed working with her in the sense of, just using her more intuitively. And these are the backs, which I think are stunning, absolutely stunning. So there you go. There's the Ceccoli Tarot, and I think already next month or the month after, I'm going to be getting the Oracle, and I think it's a deck that probably I will use throughout the year. So definitely worth the value for money for me. Anyway, okay. So those ones I've gone through, and now let me go to a Fae Oracle, which I bought last month or the month before, I can't remember now. And I bought it as an experiment. I didn't know how it was going to go, and I am loving it, and she will be appearing in June as well for sure. I'll be working with her throughout June, and that is the Oracle of the Dragonfae by Lucy Cavendish. Now this has artwork by various different artists. I believe Raven Fallan's artwork is in here, Selena Fenwick's artwork is in here, and Jimmy Manton's artwork is in here, and I'm sure I've forgotten others as well. It's a Blue Angel deck. It retails around the €20 mark, and it comes with the Lucy Cavendish guidebook, which I won't go into. I think I'm going to do a more in-depth review of this deck at some point. But in the meantime, I want to just show you some of the images because I have really just fallen in love. Now, because it's various artists, this is a deck, before I forget, look at these bags. But because this is a various artists, I think that this deck is not good. I've seen many people just, they get to that various artists bit and it becomes kind of like a bit of a sticking point. I mean, we see it there already, right? We see the change. I think this is Raven Fallan. I think this is Raven Fallan as well. This is Jimmy Manton. Selena Fenwick, So you can see here the changes that are happening when you go from one creator to the next. But because I use my cards more as either altar cards or one card as part of a larger tarot, melange, oracle, whatever spread, however you want to put it, where I just do my own thing. It's like a tableau basically where I'm just doing my own thing and I'm throwing them out there. I find that I'm okay with the mix of artists, and I already knew that because I've got the Divine Circus, and that was the first time where I bought something by various artists, and I knew that some people like that deck, but the differentiation art does, look at the pink in that card, gorgeous, stunning, but I was fine with it, like it just didn't jar me. And so with this deck, it's the same thing. I'm okay with it. I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy Manton's artwork, as you all know by now. I find that I am a bit exhausted by the fact that the only way to portray a strength, whether it's masculine or feminine, is to show like we're about to go to fight or in a war. And I'm starting to think, is there a better way for us to portray strength? Basically, that's what I want to ask, So yeah, I mean, I want to have strength and I want to show that, empowerment of whatever gender or non-gender, however you want to put it. But I sometimes get exhausted with that kind of like, this kind of imagery, because it feels almost like, unless we're looking like we're going into battle, we're not strong. I'm like, no, I can be strong and yet looking vulnerable as well. That's how I feel anyway. So that's where I get kind of like a little bit like, but I'm just going to ride with it. So just bear with me on my whole rant. Look at that card. I mean, I don't know who that's by actually. Let me look at that. That's 28. See, this is what I'm going to do on camera. On camera, I'm going to go into the guidebook and just find out who did that, who did that artwork, because that is just gorgeous. Hang on a second. Absolutely gorgeous. So that's 28. Tristan, look beneath the surface. Don't be distracted. See behind the act. This is the card of the person or being who makes no claim to virtue. Their every word and deed reveals their intent. However, if you are drawn by their charm and charisma, you might find yourself wishing and hoping they were indeed your hero, only in disguise. Ah, interesting. Interesting. This is about a slightly trickster energy by the looks of it. I need to look into it a bit more. I can't read it all out to you because I'm doing kind of like a monthly synopsis. I'm not meant to be doing this. But, I think that's gorgeous. I think that I'm someone that's really drawn into that kind of like, there's something about colors and imagery that just it's like a web, I get drawn into that web. And I just love cards like that. So for me, this is a great deck. I'm really, really glad. Look at the inside of so this is the front of the box, inside of that box, and I'm glad I picked it up. Now I do know that Lucy Cavendish has also done some other mixed artist work, I should say. There's one with the Forest Fae where you've got the Forest Fae up close and personal again. What is it with Forest Faes and up close and personal? But there you go. Then there's the Wisdom of the Fae thing. which is artwork by Amy Brown, as I recall. And I think that also varies in artist, but I'm not sure. Is it? Oh no, it's Selena Fennick. Sorry, I should say that. I think it's Selena Fennick. But again, you know, I bought this one as an experiment of like, you know, can I handle this mixed artist thing with this kind of art, with this kind of like Fae energy, and I'm loving it. And I really enjoy Raven Falan's artwork. Now, one thing to mention is there is of course the Dreams of Gaia, and then there is her two oracles, the Messenger Oracle, and then the other one is the Seeker Oracle, I think that's what it's called. Now, I understand that the Dreams of Gaia is going to go into a reprint and with new cardstock, so it's coming out of that Schiffer shiny cardstock and going into some other kind of cardstock. I have a sense of hesitation. I don't have the Dreams of Gaia. I'd like to try the Dreams of Gaia now that I've experienced some of Raven Falan's artwork. And the thing is though, is that what's making me a little bit nervous is that I actually have the Marielle second edition. The first edition was on the shiny cardstock. I later realized I think that's the same cardstock they use for the Tower of the She. The problem I have is that the Marielle second edition is not nice matte cardstock. They've done it in some kind of like cardboard. It's like literally cardboard. It's a bit similar to like Druidcraft. And then they've put this shiny, horrible, really bad quality silver edging on it. And so when I opened the deck, I had to prise apart the cards. It's horrible. It's super expensive as a mass market deck. I have to say that it's retailing around 35, 40 euros. And I honestly have to say that it's like one of my regrets of purchases, because I bought it and I was just so disappointed, and I already need to bond with that deck. It just didn't quite do it for me. I'm a Scorpio. We've seen a lot in our lives. I was like, that deck just, there was something that was a disconnect slightly in that deck. However, I know it's a love for everyone, so I won't go into it too much. I know people are going to just like kill me for saying that. But, you know, I think that like beyond like the creator, and, you know, I don't want to do so much bashing. That's not right. But the cardstock on the second edition has let it down badly. So, you know, the one thing I am going to say is this: if you're looking to buy the Marielle and you're thinking of buying the second edition, I would strongly suggest, if you can, to even borrow or find a friend who has a copy if you can, and just like take a look at it, because yeah, like I'm not loving it. So, but there you go. You know, maybe Blue Angel matte cardstock has spoiled me. It's not for everyone though either. I mean, not everybody loves this cardstock either. But I also like the Llewellyn cardstock, and I'm okay with US Games. Not all of their cardstock, but some of it I'm okay with. So I have no idea what Schiffer is doing. It's like, sort yourselves out. Okay, so to wrap up, a couple of other items. Now, the other item is kind of like a book and a card set. Now, I read this book many moons ago, like, I don't know, 10, 12 something years ago, and it's the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It is a beautiful, it's a self-help book. It's a spiritual self-help book. I love it. It was, you know, it's part of a dialogue that I personally am a part of, you know, in terms of my spirituality, my spiritual growth. I am someone that does need to work through things. I won't say more than that. And I do follow a specific path, basically, let's just put it that way. And I loved reading this, and I found it very soft and gentle, but also kind of like a little bit like, you know, clear on what it's trying to tell and help us to see in terms of, you know, the kind of like the agreements, you know, it calls it the Four Agreements, but it's I think it's about just, you know, like 4 principles basically to live life by, which can help a lot. And I love this book. And as I was kind of like, you know, going through like in the last few months, as you all know, like I have my dips basically. So I picked up a little card deck that goes with this, and this is like the Four Agreements. So I had the book for like 10 years, and now I just went and got the card deck, and I use this as part of kind of like my morning practice, and I thought I'd show you all. Sometimes I put them into spreads, but more than anything is part of my morning practice. So here we have kind of like, you know, just the message and like a caption, a phrase. It is kind of like the older style Hay House decks, let's put it that way. So the images, we have to kind of like bear that in mind, but on the back then we have kind of like, you know, what the card means. So this is called replace fear with love. And it says the human mind is like a fertile ground where seeds are continually being planted. When you're impeccable with your word, your mind is no longer fertile ground for the words that come from fear. Your mind is only fertile for the words that come from love, you know. Now, you know, this is a very strong statement, so I'm just going to say that I don't live perfectly by these statements or anything, but I just really like them because they do remind me of some things that I need to look at or some things that I need to bear in mind. They really line up. I do also a daily reading for myself from a book, like a daily reader meditation book, and it's not a Don Miguel Ruiz book, but it's really funny how uncanny they somehow kind of like come together, like whatever the reading is about, and then like I'll pick up one of these and they kind of like have a sync to them. And then if I draw a tarot card, I mean, it's always like, okay, well, there's the message. So yeah, I really like these cards in that sense. They're very helpful and nurturing, and some people use affirmation cards, which are great too, I believe, but this was something that I was using in the month of May, and I really liked it, enjoyed it, and I thought I would just share with you all in case somebody's interested. So there you go, that's the 4 Agreements cards by Don Miguel Ruiz, and that was also, there's the book there as well. Okay, and then finally, here is a history book that I'm reading, because, you know, just add more to the pile, why don't I? Now, this is a book, before I go into it, I bought literally days before events changed and like the landscape changed. So bear with me. It was not, the book was already published hard copy about 2 years ago. It got published paperback in February. I went and picked it up and, or end of January, sorry, and events changed. It is a historical book called Queen Victoria and the Romanovs. It is looking over a 200-year period. Well, sorry, the Queen Victoria's period, I should say. But it, of course, you know, it's would then come to present day experiences. Not so much, but you know, it kind of like gives that context of the relationship between the British monarchy and the Russian monarchy, and the Russian Empire, and it's interesting. It's interesting in many ways. I personally am a lover of all history. I think I've been a lover of history since, like, you know, like my eyes open. It was like, oh, let's figure out kind of like, you know, what this world is about. But for me, my ultimate passion really is from about I would say about Chaucer, 11th century, all the way up to 16th, 17th century. And then when we go into the Renaissance, I start to change, let's put it that way. But I studied political theory and philosophy, so yeah, I mean, I do all the melange, but my love and passion around, let's say, about the 11th century then onwards. So yeah, so I'm somebody that would have read, you know, the Canterbury Tales and all of that, but I decided to have a palette change historically. I really want to read some more Alison Weir books, because that's like a passion of mine. But I decided to pick this up, and I picked it up on, I have to say, strangely, on a whim, days before political events happened, which I won't go into. It's you know, of course, I want to be sensitive here. But it's been fascinating. I'm learning a lot again. I always learn when I read anything historical. I like books which give me a context of relationships. I think that's the best way I can put it. Between persons who are making very big political and geographic and historical decisions, and the context that they're made in. So I'm also an avid watcher of documentaries. Like I will even watch sometimes the same documentary when it's being repeated like a year later. I'm like, ooh, let's watch this again. And I'm just really loving this. There is a very interesting relationship here, of course, between the Tsar and Queen Victoria. It also mentions her relationship with, of course, the German Empire, with Prussia, and so forth. So I won't go into it so much. It may not be of interest to all, but this has been kind of like on my side. I don't get through a lot of it in one go, but I dip into it every now and then. And I want to finish it this month, so that like when July comes, I'm back in the medieval world, because that's where I belong. So there you go. So right, now before I forget, I'm just going to quickly go and run off the top of my head some upcoming releases that I've seen. Now, we already know that there is the Hay House publication of MJ Cullinan's Guardian of the Night. I think that's already either at the end of this month, at the end of June, or early July. I can't remember. I've seen that Stacey DeMarco, she does, of course, her calendar, or diary, I should say, where she does kind of like a year diary of the Sabbats and you know, the special occasions on the pagan calendar, on the Wheel of the Year calendar. And she does it for the Northern Hemisphere and for the Southern Hemisphere. I do know that the release date for that diary slash calendar is at the beginning of July. So if you're interested in that, that's the time. I didn't buy it last year. I have seen it, but I didn't buy it. And now kind of like I'm thinking I'm going to get it for 2023, because even though it's kind of like it's quite simple, and you could make one like that for yourself at home as well. You know, you don't have to buy it. I sometimes like things which, I don't know how else to put it, but they're sitting on my desk, and I like things that just remind me of that magic in everyday life. Because when I do everyday life, sometimes the magic feels like it just oozes out as the day goes on. I don't know how else to put it. Like, and sometimes I want something like that on my desk. Although I have also some tarot decks on my desk, so what more? But there you go. Another thing to note, though, because I'm mentioning Stacey DeMarco, is that she has a deck coming out called Dark, Dangerous, and something else. I can't remember. But if you put Stacey DeMarco into your Amazon or your book depository, you will see that deck come up. I can't remember again what it's called again. I'm sorry, and I've left my notes somewhere else, so that's what I'm thinking. Oh no, where are the notes for this? But it's called Dark, Dangerous, and something else, and I'm going to be ordering that straight away. That's for sure. So you can get that already on pre-order. It's coming up. And finally, there's also, why am I saying finally? There's also, of course, the Trick or Treat Tarot by Barbara Moore. As we all know, there's also the Tarot of Dragons. There's also Tarot of the Immortal Night. These are all autumn releases. Hay House, I think it's Hay House. They're also releasing in November, if anybody's interested. It's an Archangel, like a female Archangel deck. I think it's called Female Archangels. And then also they're doing a deck, which I am buying. Now, I'm buying 100%. I'm going to say that, and then you're going to be sitting there watching me going and sitting on the whole purchase. But I'm going to explain that in a moment. They're also doing a deck, an oracle deck called Archangel Michael, Sword of the Night, or something like that. And I really want to get that. The reason why I want to say that is because I don't want to get the female Archangel too. I want to get both of them. Is that I am not an expert in angel energy or archangel energy or whatever. Completely clueless. But I have had, over the years, really strange experiences where I've received angel blessings from different people without me asking or anything. It wasn't a paid-for service, but people who are angel experts, they're like, oh, let us do a blessing for you. And I'm like, sure. Or let us do a protection spell for you. That's what you need. I'm like, okay. And I've received that as a gift. And I have to say, it is beautiful, beautiful. I'm like, I haven't been trained in it, but that stuff, if you're ever with somebody who's trained in it, I mean, my God, they know what they're doing. That's what I want to say. And I've been the recipient of somebody else's kindness in that sense. And I'm like, oh, this is lovely. This is really, really lovely. And I've had some beautiful experiences with Archangel Michael, even though I'm not an expert in this stuff at all. But, you know, I see it as a gift when I have that feeling and I've had that experience. I see it just as a lovely gift and something that the universe, you know, sometimes the universe has like a comet that flies by and it's beautiful. It's there for us to just enjoy and to just like, I don't know, I feel like gratitude for it. And that's how I feel about like my angel energy experiences, just like a lot of gratitude and joy, basically. And so I want to get these decks. Now, you heard me say I sit on my Hay House purchases. There's also some other Hay House purchases that I'm currently sitting on. I just want to say this. Every time Hay House release a deck, afterwards I see the reviews, and I'm not joking. The first 6 months, there's so much complaints about the cardstock bending, or it not printed right, and like the borders not lining. I mean, like, I kid you not, I see that so much. Like the Lightseers has had it, the Curious Creatures, Chris Ann, whatever, has had it. There's just happened with so many Hay House decks where like I know a lot of the Colette Baron Reed decks, the first printing was apparently not great. And I've normally bought a lot of the Hay House stuff well after it's been published, you know, because that's when I came back to tarot, right, basically. So I don't know what the first print run is like, but like that always worries me that like the first print run is just pretty abysmal. So that's why I'm like, maybe I should just wait a while before like I actually order the deck so it's going into its second print run already or something, like, you know, and it's not a mess. But maybe it's just, you know, it happens with some and then it becomes like well known and maybe it's not such a big deal. I have no idea. And I still want to get this Archangel decks and the Archangel, the female Archangel deck and the Archangel Michael Wisdom of the Night deck. I also really want to get it's already been published like a few years ago or something, but I really love it. I think it was last year published. It's the Radley Valentine Angel deck, the last one that he did. I absolutely love the look of that deck. So I still want to get that one as well. So I am somebody that likes those kind of like soft nurturing decks sometimes. I just need them. I need that kind of like pink, pastel, yellow, blues energy. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah, so those are the decks that I kind of like have had a look out for. I think there's a few others that I've probably forgotten. But there's a lot of good stuff coming through. And yeah, so hopefully that has been of interest as well. I'm going to stop right here because I just saw how long this video is. Hopefully this will upload. Everything is in chapters. I wish you all a wonderful end of the week and I will see you all at the weekend. Take care now. Bye.